All right, time for another CoNcast. We had some great plans lined up for today, and hopefully we can still get to them, but right now we can't because we got hung out to dry. Oh.
Not for the first time, and most certainly not for the last time.
Yeah, that's for sure. Anyway, with me right now, and this is subject to change based on anything else that might happen today, we've got Tiddles and Laz, and with us again is Jav.
I don't even know how I got here. I meant to open up something else, and it just opened up this, and now I'm in this call on accident.
I would imagine that your shortcut is labeled. Yeah, everything is labeled as play chess. So.
Yeah, it still is.
It's chess. It's different every time.
It's like a whole new game.
Well, speaking of whole new games.
Are you playing something new, Jav?
Well, I mean, I was going to, and then they were all like, no, we're going to put back the release date for another month. So, for the moment, the only thing I'm really playing is Dust and Elysian Tale.
I've had my eye on that for a while now. That game looks great. How do you think of it?
Oh, man. So, just in terms of, like, visuals, it's probably one of the most beautiful-looking games I've played, period. And that's saying a bit. But it's a lot of fun. It's a hardcore platformer, just tons of combat, tons of jumping and puzzles and jumping and more jumping. And it's great. I love the hell out of it.
This sounds like something I want.
Yeah,
no, it's amazing. It was just one dude did all of the coding and all of the art for it, and the art is incredibly detailed.
Yeah,
every image I've seen of it is gorgeous.
Nice.
Oh, this is ringing a bell to me now. I remember hearing about this when it first came out.
Yeah, there was like a Kickstarter for it for a while,
too. Well, we're not talking about Kickstarter anymore, because nobody seemed to like that topic. So
We're only talking about it if we put Fat Chocobo music behind it.
I would have liked it, but then you guys are like, no, Jeff, we don't need you this week.
Yeah, so...
Elysian Tale looks awesome. I don't own it yet, but it is exactly the kind of thing that I will jump on fast if I see it on a Steam sale for, like, 50% off or more.
That's when I actually picked it up, like, 2 weeks ago, and I just didn't start playing it until this week, so
apparently, their official website is over its bandwidth limit right now, so I can't look at it and reacclimate myself to what I'd heard about it, so yay!
That's the strength of my recommendation.
Yeah,
we
haven't even stopped recording this yet, and people are downloading the game en masse. What game was it that got pushed back that you were going to play and now aren't, Jeff?
Shadowrun Returns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
I'm a sucker for
another
that
Kickstarter
D&D-esque thing.
Yeah.
See, I would have had tons to talk about last week, but we don't want Jeff. He's gross. But that also looks great.
Maybe we should just do two podcasts simultaneously with 4 people in each. We're getting close to having people to do that once DP's back in the loop.
Yeah, which will probably be never at this point. For anybody missing DP, not only did he not have internet because he was moving back to the U.S., now he's living in a place where his landlord won't give him internet, so that's pretty awesome.
All right.
You tell him, Kay.
I'm going to transition to what I'm playing right now because out of a strange coincidence, the composer for Dust and Elysian Tale did the soundtrack to the game I'm playing now as well. I am playing Penny Arcade's On the Rain-Slick Precipice of Darkness 4 by Zeboyd Games.
Ooh.
I thought you were going to finish that.
No. Well, I did, but I'm playing it again, and I'm playing 3 again to go into 4, and I'm trying to use different units this time around. It's Rain-Slick 4 is awesome. The studio that did it, Zeboyd Games, is my favorite indie studio, and they made a really, really entertaining old-school RPG. That's all I got.
I picked up the 3 and 4 pack when it was on sale. I haven't tried.
It's a good investment.
I have no idea if they require prior play of any of them, but
it helps. Well, anyway, I guess you do. It helps to play the first 2, but it's more important that you just have a working knowledge of Penny Arcade things, so you can get some of the references.
Yeah.
But it's they're good they're awesome RPGs. The battle system's kind of like Grandia, where everyone's action meter is sort of shared, and you can attack people while they're sort of casting their spells or whatever to knock them down the meter and force them to take another turn. It's kind of like a Persona or Megami Tensei game because you have to recruit monsters and you switch them in and out like the main character of a Persona, but you equip the trainers to them to have them level up in certain ways and change their skill sets around. The variety's huge. My final party ended up having a vending machine and Cthulhu in it. Yeah, it's awesome. The vending machine can use items with MP instead of wasting items. And Cthulhu just tentacles everything. This is a good game. We're definitely worth playing. And 4 is a little better than 3, but you really need to play 3 to set up 4 because of the events at the end of 3.
Okay,
that's all. Oh, but the composer that did Dust and Rain Slick 4 is I think they're either in Ireland or the UK, but they're a group called Hyperduck Soundworks, and their music.
Oh, yeah, I know them.
Yeah, their music is excellent.
Josh, do you know what else they did that you
Monkey?
know?
Is it Monkey?
No. I've forgotten the name of it.
Wow, that was a great
Ha! Yeah, I'm prepared for this.
Nailed it.
Yeah, and actually,
So
I just they're selling the soundtrack for Rain Slick 4 right now on a louder account, and if you spend more than $15, then you get the Dust soundtrack as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I am doing that right now.
Did you say Zero Gear?
I did say Zero Gear.
Nice.
I remember Zero Gear that one time.
Yeah, Zero Gear. We should play Zero Gear.
Let's do it right now.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
All right, podcast over. What's
Like
a Zero
Well,
Gear?
no, we've said before we could do a gaming podcast at some point. Well, obviously we're doing a gaming podcast, but you know what I mean.
That's
know what I mean.
a gaming podcast where we're playing games while talking about games. God damn.
Exactly.
Doop-a-doop-a-doo. So, are you playing anything, Tittles?
No. Next.
Yay! I love it when these things go short. I've actually been trying to steal the iPad more often so I can play more Final Fantasy Tactics, and yeah, that's it. It's
Oh, I do have some exciting news for you. I just accidentally pulled apart a USB Bluetooth adapter instead of pulling it out of the USB slot, so that's good.
neat.
It's the presence of Ollie in chat. He's infecting me. Ollie.
Actually, Ollie pinged out of chat a few minutes ago. So.
Of course you did.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Anyway, my Father's Day treat to myself was that I actually sat down and put Final Fantasy 13-2 into my Xbox for the very first time. Yeah.
So?
Well, I got 7 minutes in or so, didn't make it to a save point, so I'll
you
be
got a seizure.
starting over again. Well, that game really just kind of like drops the bomb immediately, because as soon as the game loads, you're playing as Lightning, you're riding Odin in horse mode, and you are outrunning a Bahamut. And you're fighting it from horseback around this city that is falling apart around you, and it's just like, okay, everything happens at once, which I guess, if it's going to be a time travel game, you got to pack all that in before you jump to some other era. I don't know, but
It's bigger on the inside.
I thought it was awesome. It was just extremely hyperkinetic, like Final Fantasy 13 to the very next level, and hopefully that continues when I actually get a chance to play it again, which will probably be 3 months from now.
I still haven't played it, and if 13 was any indication, I probably won't.
I still ought to play the first one. It's on my shelf. I just haven't opened the box.
No,
that was kind of my thing, too.
Yeah, we're only allowed to have one person in the CoNcast who is in any way down on FF13. That's the rule.
But you can have multiple
me.
that are down with FF13.
Yeah, it's got to be 3 against 1. Okay.
Well, again, we had a topic ready to go today that goes in with the news that I posted earlier today, and today is, a day that I don't actually remember what day it is. Oh, it's the 19th of June. That's right. So if you are on
It's not
Con,
when you're listening to this, by the way, though, is it?
No, because
You're listening to this in the future.
As it turns out, it's really hard to edit an hour-long podcast within the span of 10 minutes. It's absolutely crazy. But we are hooking up with a group of speed gamers called The Speed Gamers to promote a Final Fantasy speedrunning marathon that's happening next week. We were going to have a very special guest in with us to talk about that today. Now we're kind of not. So we're going to talk about E3 for the entire show.
I should know that this is the first time in history a speedrunner has let us down.
Oh,
come on, man. No one's going to get that.
It is! It is!
It legitimately is! Woo!
It's true. Next.
So anyway, E3 was last week at the time we're recording this. It'll be about 2 weeks old by the time that you guys actually hear this. So let's talk about it. E3 is in the books. It was a pretty smoking hot E3 this year, I think. There's a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, Squeenix is not the biggest news, but given that this is the Caves of Narsh podcast, why don't we kick it off talking about Squeenix?
And what a show they had. Man, I haven't been that excited about a Squeenix press conference in I don't know how long, and they started strong. I mean, let's just go on to Final Fantasy, right? That's what everyone wants to hear about.
It's a lot of people, including our very own Josh, predicted that Versus would turn into 15. And then there it is, and it's got Secret of Mana skill rings, and you run up a building and beat up a behemoth with a hammer. That's a game. Wow.
How good did that gameplay look? Because that combat system looked insane.
Yeah, this is the thing. I wasn't supposed to be here for this one at all, so preparation zero. I haven't watched any of this, but from what I've heard, it sounds like my main complaint about Final Fantasy, which is it's just a sequence of moving around menus and pressing the A button, they might be slightly addressing that, we think.
Yeah, it looked like it.
It looks action-oriented, and from what I could tell, your main character was moving around the field with his enemies and allies around him. To switch weapons, you could bring up a sort of active menu that was a faded out circle of weapons surrounding him, like a Secret of Mana spell menu or something. And he could switch weapons on the fly. If he was attacked from behind and his buddy was nearby, your buddy would save you from that attack. It looked like it was definitely sort of a party of characters fighting, but it was a lot more action oriented than any other Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, it looked like the party members were operating independently of what you were doing with the main character, which I kind of like.
But they would sort of step in to help. They would sort of step in to help you, or
yeah, or high five you. Whichever.
So, are we thinking somewhere between Final Fantasy and Mass Effect style mechanics, perhaps?
No, not really.
I think it's closer to Crisis Core, personally, which I know you haven't played.
I also haven't played that. But I mean in the fact that you've got a squad, but you're not directly controlling the squad necessarily, but they're helping you out, and you can potentially direct them to do certain things, maybe.
I would say it's more like Dragon Age, just because of the the positioning seems to be really important, and it's not really a first person or over the shoulder view. It's more like a full character walking around view.
Yeah.
So it's like playing Dragon Age, but in the console way and not the top down PC way.
Well, I imagine they're probably going to use some kind of if then guidelines for their AI, like they kind of had with 12. Where it was do this if your character falls under X health or whatever, and your teammates will just follow those criteria, and then in the meantime just follow whatever parameters you said, like kill things, or heal the things dead.
Well, in that regard, it's actually not completely dissimilar from what you can do in Final Fantasy Tactics, even. So, that's optional there, of course.
Dragon Age and the old BioWare games it was based on in the Baldur's Gate series had a similar principle of allowing you to do AI scripts. Now, the Dragon Age system for in Origins was pretty nice, I thought.
Yeah, it was great. And if it's anything like that, then I'm very excited to see what they're doing.
We don't have any evidence of AI scripts or gambits being in this game, but it makes sense because from the trailer, you were obviously only controlling one character sort of actively. But you could do some crazy things. Like you were teleporting around a lot, and for a while you were able to teleport to the side of a building and fight an enemy while standing vertically on the building.
Yeah, it looked like there was a bunch of people coming down the building, and you were just like using your sword to climb it.
Yeah, and there was another sequence where I think your ally knocked a sword out of an enemy's hand. It was one of those Iron Giant enemies that you see in recent ones with the sort of with the like the smaller legs and huge torso. And you could knock the big sword out of its hand and then pick it up and like cut the Iron Giant in half with his own sword. And it looked awesome, but I don't know how it's implemented or what kind of system is in place there.
I suppose it sounds like they showed off some kind of demonstrations, but we don't know for sure exactly how any of it's going to work. I mean, it looks cool, but I suppose we have to reserve judgment on gameplay until we kind of know a little more about what it entails.
Well, we do have Gamescom in another month or two, and Tokyo Game Show in about 3 months.
Yeah,
so
I think
sure
we
we'll see
could
more
see
of it there.
more at TGS. Probably not as much at Gamescom, I wouldn't guess, but we'll see.
I imagine that Gamescom will probably just get another trailer or something.
Yeah. The thing, I know that they have come out and said the opposite since this trailer came out, but it really does feel like they're just going further and further away from ATB, which, it's well known that I really liked Final Fantasy XIII, and that was quite a distance from the old school ATB. But part of me is a little bit sad that, we may never see a game like that again from the Final Fantasy series.
I'm not sure if we can totally discount some kind of action meter from being present because, he wasn't sort of hacking and slashing nonstop. It was a lot of sort of like placement, and he was and I couldn't see menu navigation, but that might have been hidden somehow. I don't really know. I'm seeing all of these actions taking place, but I don't know what sort of systems you're manipulating to perform those actions, except for that equipment ring that I alluded to earlier. You could sort of see that happening. But everything else, I'm like, how does this go? I don't know at all.
Well, I know that there were interviews where they said they wanted to move the battle system into a more real-time kind of affair. Okay. They wanted to get out of loading screens in and out of fights, make it less of a transition, make it more immersive into the world.
Well, the silly thing is, they already did a much better job of that with Chrono Trigger, getting on for 20 years ago now? 18 years ago?
Yeah, but that was the Dream Team.
That is true, but...
They know everything. And if they ever got back together, that would just, not that I'm hinting
they are never,
Square.
ever getting back together.
What kind of laugh was that?
The laugh of a man who just made a Taylor Swift reference.
Yeah, that was the only kind of laugh that a person who makes a Taylor Swift reference is actually allowed to use.
I thought it was a sonic screwdriver. I was going to say something, I lost my train of thought. Wait there a minute while it comes back to me. ATB.
I choose your train of thought.
Look.
Wow, that's
there
an
will
old Simpsons reference I'd forgotten until now.
I'm sure there will be ATB-based games again, even if it ends up with Square splitting off into some kind of like Nintendo have done with New Super Mario Brothers. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point you see an ATB game again either way, but I am not at all sad to see the main series move on from that. Because remember, ATB as a term comes from the idea of kind of taking the existing turn-based battle system and making something more interesting out of it, which was a smart thing to be doing in, 1991? Well, 94, whichever one it was first introduced with. And how long ago was that?
91. It was Final Fantasy IV.
Okay.
There you go, on the money. But it's really way past time to be saying goodbye to that. It's right that they are trying to look at modernising the way the games play. because that to me that's not the reason anybody liked Final Fantasy to begin with. Probably it's for a few people, but mainly what Square were good at in the 90s that people latched onto was telling a great story, great atmosphere, great plot, great soundtrack, and a really immersive game that just everybody else is doing much better now. And to have these strange menu-based, out-of-mode battles just is so archaic that it takes you away from it.
Well, I don't think we can necessarily say they've evolved beyond it, since they were using a menu in the trailer, which you still haven't seen. And
yeah, well, no, but it's a different. There's menus and menus, aren't there? I mean, there are menus in Mass Effect, but you'd never argue it's not a real-time game. The idea of everything being driven by wait, pick an action from a menu, wait, that I think has to change. And if they're doing that, great. If they're not, they've missed the point again. I wouldn't be surprised either way. But
even
we'll
if
see.
it is gone, I'm sure it'll be back when they make Final Fantasy VII Remake, right? Right? That's gonna happen.
Speaking of things that didn't show up at E3, I think we can spend zero time on that, because I don't think anybody with a brain really thought that was going to show up at E3. So, moving on. And if I just offended you, you have no brain, so deal with it. Has anybody participating right now ever played any of the Kingdom Hearts games?
All
Do
of
we
them
have anything to say?
All of them
okay.
obsessively.
I kind of thought that you would be the
played
person
1
to
and
answer
2.
yes.
I've played 1 and 2.
Okay, well, you guys can talk about Kingdom Hearts 3, I guess, because I've never played any of them. Tittles obviously has never played any of them.
Hell,
I got nothing to say.
I'm waiting for the obligatory LucasArts tie-in where they end up on Tatooine, and it's Sora, Donald, and Goofy hanging out with Ben Kenobi going these aren't the Disney references you're looking for. Just
I think
you went there
you mean
instead of Marvel?
No, I think Marvel's probably because they already had a few Marvel tie-ins in Birth by Sleep, and
I didn't know that.
There was, I think, some in the just what's it called, the new remake that they put out for the PSN has
Chain of Memories
recoded.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, they have some Marvel references in there. Nothing major, but some of the items that they added and some little bestiary references and whatnot. So it's there. It's just not really being full use yet. Plus, I think they're going to reach a wider audience going the Star Wars route. But I'm excited. I like the Kingdom Hearts a lot. I mean, it's a cute game. You don't really play it because you like the story. You play it because, hey, look, Disney characters, all these other tie-ins and crossovers. Fun.
They should add an ESPN crossover so I can play as Chris Berman. But yeah, no one's gonna laugh at that. But,
wow. No, actually, it took me a second to put that together, but then I'm like, they could actually do that.
Yeah,
they should have
legally do that.
They should have him commentate the Coliseum battles when you're fighting the Ice Titan.
Oh my god, yeah, that'd be great.
And here comes Sora. Anyway, but I have fallen off whatever Kingdom Hearts bandwagon I was on before, because I just kept looking at the new titles that they were introducing and how they kept expanding the universe, and none of it was appealing to me at all. I thought that Kingdom Hearts was pretty good, and 2 had better gameplay but sillier story, and 3 isn't going to pull me back into it, but it looks like there's a lot of cool things here for fans, and they finally announced the Kingdom Hearts 3, so that's something. And also it's available for the even though I think it debuted at the Sony conference, it's available for the Xbone and the PS4. So
that was pretty hilarious.
They said that it was going to be on both.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said it was going to be on both, but a lot of people assumed it was PS3 because it debuted at the Sony conference.
But
so there were some confusing moments the following morning.
Here's the thing, though. It's not that Kingdom Hearts Final Fantasy, also has an apparent PC release going on.
They will neither confirm nor deny that as yet, but given that they are now developing games with DirectX 11, it seems like that should be a fairly low bar if they think that they can make money off of it.
I don't see why they wouldn't. And Square's been putting out a lot of PC titles lately, and I think it's the thing they should do. I think they should cash in on that. And they re-released FF7 for the PC. They're doing it for FF8 now. I don't know why they're doing it for FF8, but they're doing it.
Probably because they already had the PC version for it, and it's just a matter
probably. But they're looking to make some money off there. So
we should point out they re-released FF7 incredibly lazily and badly. But I mean, one thing that would probably make me much more inclined to try a new Final Fantasy was if it actually did come out on the PC.
I'm thinking that the versions of those Eidos properties that had PC versions, like your Human Revolution and your Tomb Raider, I'm willing to bet the PC versions did extremely well. And this is getting Square Enix thinking, maybe we should put some more stuff into the PC.
Absolutely. And I think that would be the right call to make, especially currently.
I've been surprised that, as someone who primarily does play games on the PC, I've been surprised at how things are sort of turning much more positive on the PC in the last couple of years. I mean, for a while, it started to seem like titles were not coming out at all on the PC, or they were coming out much later, and the ports, if you got them, were pretty awful.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate... go on.
It seems like that's turning around a bit, and it was kind of a surprise with GTA 5 to find they were still having the delayed PC release, because that wouldn't have surprised me at all. When GTA 4 came out, everybody was doing that if they were doing a PC release at all. But now it's kind of unusual to see that. A lot of the kind of big games you do just expect it to be on the PC unless they're platform exclusive for whatever other reason. But yeah, things are going all right for the PC. So
yeah. I hate to use a sort of common opinion and also something that might be a bit of a lazy explanation, but Steam has a lot to do with that.
Yep.
Steam is so huge and so mainstream that PC releases over Steam are doing better than ever, and I hear it all the time in reviews of multi-platform games. Oh, the PC version, it looks best on PC. You can optimize it for PC. You can only really mod it on PC. So, that old PC gaming master race is finally living up to that title. And now Square Enix is, they want some of those PC dollars. Absolutely.
Speaking of other Square Enix titles, I don't know if anyone else is or was a fan of the Thief series, but have you guys, did you see anything about that? Because, oh my god.
I heard actually lukewarm to negative things about it, but I don't have any experience. I didn't see a trailer. I just read some E3 preview stuff. What do you think about it?
Pretty cool. I mean, it was not a whole lot of real in-play footage. It was mostly trailer, cutscene. Let's showcase some neat stuff that you probably won't really be able to do in the context of the actual game. But what I saw looked great. I've always been a sucker for the whole sneaking around, espionage, Metal Gear kind of game. And that started with the first Thief. I loved that game to bits. I played
Metal Gear!
Yeah, that.
I had to get there before Tittles did, even though it was totally irrelevant.
And speaking of Metal Gear, not so much E3 news, I think we heard beforehand, but worth commenting on the changing voice actors, perhaps. If you're a fan of the series,
Kiefer
that's pretty
Sutherland.
big news.
Well,
Sutherland.
One second. I need to bone up on my Metal Gear Solid 5, or Metal Gear Solid background a bit. Is Metal Gear Solid 5 about Solid Snake or Big Boss?
Big Boss.
So, if it's possible, could they just, if they're just trying to separate the characters of Big Boss and Solid Snake, couldn't they have Sutherland as Big Boss and then bring back David Hayter as Snake for a future game?
That's what a lot of people have been speculating.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation that the game will actually end at more or less at the beginning or just before Metal Gear 1, where we're first introduced to Solid Snake working for Big Boss.
So does that mean that everybody will feel asleep?
Josh, today these references, I swear. I'm Kiefer Sutherland. I mean, Come on, Lost Boys. Yeah, let's do that.
Stand by me, am I right?
Classic. That's an 80s reference. But I guess so is Lost Boys, so.
Yeah. How did what? Come on. Feels like you're adding nothing.
You know, we've kind of been skirting
Stupid,
the issue a little bit. We have been skirting the issue a little bit, but the amount of just straight up back and forth punching between Microsoft and Sony in this E3 was it made it one of the most entertaining E3s that I can remember.
Well, you say back and forth.
Yeah, it's not back.
Oh no, there was some back. Well, there was some back and forth because obviously Sony took the first real punch, obviously, but then the very and I'm going back to Squeenix here. Like the games that they produce or not, Squeenix is a huge name right now. I thought all along that Sony was not going to be allowed to say much of anything about the key Square Enix IPs at their conference, and then they did. And that kind of blew me away because that was leading into the event that Squeenix were doing themselves the very next morning. And then they showed up at that event, and they said, oh yeah, all that stuff we told you last night, still happening. But by the way, it's happening on the Xbone too. And if you ask me, that's a pretty big punchback. Because that's like two franchises that have been largely exclusive to Sony. Obviously, 13 got wider distribution, but for many years, Sony was where you were going for Final Fantasy. Other than Birth by Sleep, Sony was where you were going for Kingdom Hearts, and suddenly they're going to Microsoft.
358 over 2 days was DS, and Chain of Memories was GBA.
I know that's why I said largely.
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Jerk off.
I don't know.
Let me take this back to the point you were making a minute ago, Josh, and let me take that back to the point I was making earlier, which is that Square Enix, the Final Fantasy developer, is not at all the same thing as Square Enix, the publisher. And Square Enix, the publisher, has been putting multi-platform stuff out for quite a while, and anybody big like EA and Activision is doing that. If you're that big of a publisher, you can't afford to make your big IPs exclusive in that way, particularly not when you've got this sort of, well, it's known which way it's going now, but this unknown of which platform you're going to, get behind. I think the Japanese output is a kind of slightly different question to the publisher as a whole. Now, it is kind of a surprise that perhaps that more of that, raw, traditional JRPG type stuff is going to come to the Xbox as well. But that's not, given that that's what they did with the with Final Fantasy 13, it's not a massive surprise. I think they were forced into it, being taken by surprise last generation by how well Microsoft did. I think if they had a crystal ball and they could see the reaction to the Xbox One now, I think they might not have made those decisions with their core properties, and they might have stuck with Sony if that gave them some benefits, because the way it looks at the minute, you're not going to lose much by not selling it on the Xbox One.
It was a big deal that those two big Squeenix bombs are available on both consoles, but I don't think that the Xbox One was totally, overshadowed by Sony. If you told me, hey, I saw both conferences and I liked Microsoft exclusives better than Sony's exclusives, I'd sort of shrug and say okay. A lot of the games on both sides look pretty good.
Well, Microsoft didn't do too badly in terms of the exclusive side of things. And in fact, in terms of the raw games coming out, maybe they actually did slightly better than Sony. But the DRM has been such a kicker. There's been such a backlash on that nobody's interested. Nobody's even talking about what games they have or not. All they care about is this console isn't going to work for me. Or at least that's the perception.
Well, I wouldn't say it's not going to work for me. I'd say I can't ever turn it off, and it's always watching me.
As of about a half hour ago,
Right.
not anymore.
Or if that breaking news is true, and I'm not 100% sure about it, even though it looks like it's the real deal. Apparently, Microsoft was so stunned at the negative reaction that they are, backtracking the hell out of those original policies.
Yeah, but do you think the damage is already done? Do you think it really makes a difference to the consumer base that, listen, we're backing out of it?
These games are coming out in 5 months, so it definitely matters to some people. But I mean, there's still a lot of time left and a lot of marketing dollars to be spent before these consoles actually come out. So I think right now, the most damaging thing, if this news ends up being true, which I'm sort of leaning towards yes, then I think the real negative on the Xbox might be the $100 additional price and the bundled Kinect.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. You can fix up the DRM all you like, but you've still got to spend an awful lot more money for something that, well,
is less impressive overall.
If you're the sort of person that wants to have that motion control stuff, then it's not quite so far off because Sony is not including their camera in the price. It's only about $50 difference.
If you were gonna jump into that already, and given that Kinect is, well, I haven't used either Kinect or Sony's Move business this generation, but my understanding is it was generally thought that Kinect was kind of the slightly cooler, cleverer technology. So $50 more, maybe that's worthwhile. But the fact that it's not an option is... If I were looking... See, for me, if I were looking... The DRM, for me, is not a big bother. I can understand why it is to a lot of people, but I'm a Steam user. All my PC games I buy on Steam, I can't trade them, I can't sell them. I'm fine with that. Partly because they're cheaper, which is something that didn't seem to be the case from what we'd heard about the Xbox One, but nevertheless...
Well, it'll be in your local currency.
The issue for me is the only reason I would buy one of these consoles is if I want to play some games that I can't play on the PC. And all things being equal, if that game is on both consoles and I have to choose one based on that, well, I'm probably not going to spend the extra money on a console which is generally thought to be technically inferior in terms of the innards for the most part, and I have to pay for some piece of crap camera that's going to sit there watching me and not doing anything useful for me and possibly just irritating me when it wants me to use it. Like the same way they seem to have made Windows 8 keep asking you to touch things when you haven't got a touch screen, you know. The Kinect's going to be like sitting over there. There's no room for me to use a Kinect. It's never going to work.
Yeah, it's weird that if all of this goes through, the main drivers are going to end up being exclusives and price point, and that's probably going to be just about it, because exclusives, as we've, again, seen from Squeenix, are starting to become less of a thing.
Yeah.
You know, each console is going to have maybe 3 or 4 big IPs that will be franchisable and exclusive. And other than that, you're going to get everything on either console. And the technical limitations may change the way that the games work on each one, but they're going to be pretty close regardless.
Yes, but I mean, I would argue that some exclusives can be just about system sellers, like your Halos or your Gears of Wars. I'm not sure if we're getting a next-gen Gears.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, there are.
You know, or your Uncharted's or
those. I mean. I think Uncharted is not nearly the monster that Halo is, but another thing that I don't think we should really ignore is that Microsoft is getting, I think, a month advantage on Call of Duty content, and Call of Duty is the biggest game in the United States, and if they have any kind of Call of Duty leg up, that's not something you should just ignore.
No, but $100 more on the DRM.
I choose to ignore it.
I'm playing basically devil's advocate. If anything,
I understand.
I'm almost a Sony fanboy. I mean, I thought my favorite game of the conference was probably Infamous 3 or Infamous Second Son. So,
okay, there you go. There's an exclusive for you.
Yeah.
If you combine Infamous and Uncharted, maybe you have one Halo.
Maybe.
Probably not, but yeah.
Did PlayStation announce what their price point was for their multiplayer Pass, like their equivalent for their Xbox Live?
Well, no, it's gonna be this. It's gonna be PlayStation Plus, which
Yeah, whatever it cost you to do PlayStation Plus, which was like $50 a year. Is that right?
it's
That sounds right.
So it's
I
cheaper
think
than
it's
Xbox Live.
it's cheaper,
Yeah,
but you can buy it in packages that make it more expensive or less expensive. I think it's more than 50 a year.
Yeah, that may be
The-
what they launched it at.
The
I don't
quote,
really...
the quote I can remember from E3 was.
Wait, no, you're right. It's $5 a month or 50 for a year. Yeah.
Okay.
Was, yeah,
Boom.
that's what I was
So-
about to say.
I think that's also going to have something to do with it. Probably not like a large, it's not going to be a deal breaker for a lot of people, but when you tie it into the Kinect issue and the DRM and like everything that's going so far, I think it's going to help steer things a bit more towards PlayStation. Because
Well, I can speak for myself, at least, if anybody's interested in that.
no, not really.
No? Yeah,
It'll
that's what I
speak for
figured.
Josh.
Well, they're not Apple aren't making one, so you don't really have an interest in it, right?
You know, you really have gone over the top with that. I am not that big of an Apple person. FYI.
You
I certainly
love it.
Certainly wouldn't own any of their consoles if they made one, because it would probably be twice the cost of an egg box.
Yeah, but think of how good it would look.
No, it really wouldn't, because then you'd have to buy their $4,000 monitor as well.
And
just saying this
their
which-
$1,000 additional memory.
I meant the console itself, like visually. Like,
Oh
it's
yeah,
a very
oh yeah,
pretty box.
it would be very pretty.
If they
Yeah,
did
that's a good
announce
point.
one, you would covet it and covet it and covet it, and come the day, you would pay the £5,000 asking price.
You are an
I
idiot.
think it'd be like tattooed with the logo.
No, from where I'm sitting right now, assuming that today's news about Microsoft backing down on all of that stuff turns out to be true, the $100 means a lot to me also, but the PlayStation Plus also means a lot to me because A, it's a little bit cheaper, but B, from what I'm hearing, you don't need PlayStation Plus to do a lot of the ancillary stuff, like if you want to do Netflix on your console.
Yeah, you don't need it.
That won't cost you extra.
You know, this
even
is-
on the PS4.
It's only multiplayer functionality and all of the additional discounts and bonuses that it
Yeah.
gives you.
But this
And
is
free
And I would
games
almost never
every
use that
couple of
stuff.
months they just give to their player base, which is such a cool thing to do. But anyway.
Yeah.
This is
You
the
get-
really strange thing that I couldn't understand. You had this pre-E3 conference with the Xbox that, you know, we covered it somewhat when we were talking about that. But they're making all this noise about it being a big TV box, and they're selling it for masses more than most set-top boxes, and you have to pay an extra subscription on top of whatever your Netflix and your, you know, whatever else you subscribe to is. And it seems crazy. Who's going to buy that for that? I'm going to buy a massive supercomputer with high-end video hardware, and I'm only going to watch TV on it when I could do the same on something a fifth of the price. They're right to be looking at that market, and they're right to be looking at those features as a kind of, we can do this and that, so you don't have to buy an extra one of these. But to make that a central selling point of these things is never going to work.
There's still there are advantages to what it's doing. I mean, a lot of set-top box sort of user functionality is terrible, and being able to manipulate TV things and recordings from an Xbox dashboard is actually sort of appealing. So, this TV stuff appeals to some people. We are not those people for the most part, but there's
Well,
I think all we can do is wait.
I will say this
I
though.
would like something that has these functions, but I would never pay anything like that money for it. Yeah, the interface might be a bit better, but damn, the price difference is too big for it to be sold just on that basis.
That's true.
And also,
Can you
it
guys-
may have a nicer user interface in some of the set-top boxes, but anything that you tell people is a bit like Windows 8 at the minute, it's probably not going to do any favours in the marketing department.
Can you guys see Microsoft also taking the step of reducing the price even before they go out now?
Not before, but I
absolutely.
would see probably like a Christmas kind of special thing going on, kind of like what happened with the Vita.
It depends.
I think it would be too much of a step back. I don't think the prices are gonna change until next year, if then.
I think it's going to depend. It's going to depend if these rumors coming out today are true, and they are going to backtrack on the DRM, I think they're going to wait and see how that plays out with the public. And if they're still getting a very negative rap over, what's left of the price difference and a forced Kinect add-on, then they might have to think about it. But yeah, I think you guys are largely on the money. It will probably come later based on how the early sales go, if anything. If they're not still reeling even after making DRM changes.
Sony has a head start now with this extremely positive message that they're putting forth. And also, I think that's one thing that Xbox really has going against them right now, because both in their pre-E3 conference and E3, their message was so confused and inconsistent. And in the days following E3, we're about a week after it now, people are still asking questions. Wait a second. So how does DRM work? Can I play used games? Can I sell my games on eBay? Yep. There's so many. It's a week after E3, and people are still asking these questions. And I on one of the late night shows the other night, I think it was
Jimmy Kimmel, or Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon. I think it was on Jimmy Fallon the other night. They were had a Sony rep up there. I think it might have been Mark Cerny, saying when he put forth the Sony message, oh yes, you will be able to do this on the PlayStation 4. You will be able to get used games. There was almost an undercurrent of, but you might not be able to do that on the Xbox.
I don't think there was even an undercurrent of it. I think they were trying to be as overt about it as possible.
Right.
See, if we had our speedrunner here tonight, I could have popped this question, because the Xbox actually just announced that they were partnering with Twitch TV. And you're going to be able to stream games that you're playing live as playing them onto your Twitch TV account, which would be great for that community, and is great for a lot of the stuff that you're seeing now with people streaming Let's Plays or competitive gaming or everything that's just going on in that online community. So that's a cool feature.
That was interesting, but didn't Sony announce something very similar as one of their big features in February or whatever it was?
Before then, they obtained a service called Gaikai late last year. That is basically, I think it's Chinese, but it's a streaming service that's very big in Asia. That I bet very, very soon Sony's going to integrate. Or use Gaikai technology to integrate streaming services into the PS4. I'm sure that's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to happen. It just won't have the reach and the brand naming that Twitch carries with it.
Yeah.
Twitch
carries with Americans, or
exactly.
Like in terms of
it's very Sony to go after something for the Asian market, and it's very Microsoft to go after something for the North American, European market.
Either way, I consider that a double positive. I'm quite certain both of the consoles will have lots of ready-made streaming services available, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Twitch.
Yeah, but at the same time, that just makes more irritating people out in the wild.
Twitch is a big name, but imagine a scenario where Microsoft don't backtrack on any of the DRM. The Amazon poll, in which 95% of respondents said the PS4 was their favoured option of the two, ends up coming to pass, and people buy this PS4 and they start streaming using the services available. I think the reality is Twitch would find they had some competition due to having backed the wrong horse, more than the fact that people just wouldn't watch it because it's on a different. I know it's kind of people go to Twitch and sort of see what's going on and just see what's on there, but I think if people started using another service a lot because of it being, thrown in there as a big thing with the console, it might start to become competitive in its own right. And you may start to see
ditch Microsoft entirely.
Oh yeah,
hey, Sony, what's up?
They might just jump into Sony's bed, and it might be a regional thing. But if there ended up being two of them competing, I think what you'd quickly find is you'd just have another service sitting on top that aggregates what's going on in both of them.
And, it doesn't really matter in the long run if it's a Chinese service or a Japanese service or an American service, because that's just not the way things work anymore.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not like we're gonna be looking for where's the Twitch TV button on my PS4. It'll be like, how do I stream something or record something from my PS4? That's
the thing that would make a difference.
It's not going to matter once both systems are in place.
The thing that will make a difference, I think, is if I have no experience. I only really have any experience with Twitch, but with what was it called, Gaikai?
Yeah.
If the experience of actually viewing that and navigating it, or of storing and editing videos and that sort of thing, if that ended up being substantially inferior in some way, or if they didn't have the bandwidth to cope with the new stuff that was being pushed their way, that is when I think it might end up being a problem. But otherwise, I think it would end up being a competition.
All right, sorry to cut you off, Tiddles, but Xbox did just come forth with an announcement that basically an internet connection will not be required to play offline Xbox One games, and trade-in, lending, reselling, gifts, and rental disc-based games will be done just like they are now with the 360. So it's official now. They have backtracked and eaten their way to being more like the PS4. And now
there you go.
And now we gotta wait. We gotta
ago.
wait.
You heard it here first.
1 week ago. But
whatever.
But still, it's
hey. If
how
one
much
of you
damage
guys
is
can
done.
edit this faster, you go right ahead.
Just speed it all up and put the Fat Chocobo music on.
You know what? Should we talk about Nintendo's conference? Because
Nintendo at a conference?
yeah.
Meh.
Well, they didn't have a conference, but they were there. they were present.
Yeah, they did a Nintendo Direct for
All
everything.
I know
They had
is
games
that-
on the floor.
I kind of feel like Nintendo have to go the way of Sega sooner or later, unless they can pull something out of their sleeve. They make really nice first-party games. There's no question of that, but they just can't get the reach out while they're insisting on putting it on their own hardware, where they're demonstrably failing to, capture the market in the way they were with the Wii. So
Millions of 3DSs would like to disagree with you.
Yeah, they are killing
millions of
They are
3DS.
killing the handheld system.
Millions.
Well,
They're
yeah,
not, because
earlier
they're
this
being-
year,
competition.
this year, the regular 3DS, the regular DS surpassed the PlayStation 2 as being the best-selling video game machine of all time. So the Nintendo handhelds do pretty well.
How old is the DS? And their handhelds are not facing competition from Sony. They're facing competition from the phones and tablets everybody has in their pocket.
But they're still selling like
still winning.
crazy, and I would not foresee them going the way of Sega just based on because they're selling like gangbusters right now.
Well, I don't think he's saying that they are necessarily going the way of Sega. I think he's saying that they could be more profitable if they did.
Well,
I would
yeah,
argue
and
it'd be more profitable if they just ditched consoles entirely and focused on handheld systems, because they seem to have that on lock.
All right, I gotta say right now, guys, on Twitter, the phrase Xbox 180 is trending, and I find that hilarious. I love that. But anyway, back to Nintendo at E3. I think they just didn't have a conference because they didn't want to waste time and money and stress on it. They just put their games out, and for the most, they had games there, but nothing that new or special. Everything was a sequel.
Yeah.
Wait, was this E3 2013 or 12?
13.
Or any of them.
11.
Well, okay, to be fair, 11 they showed off the 3DS, and that was a thing.
Yeah, that was a cool thing.
Yeah, so
Because they were all like,
But-
hey, remember Ocarina of Time? And I was like, yes. And they're like, do you want to play that in your hands? And I was like, yes. And they're like, well, here's Star Fox. And I was like, all right. Perfect.
We're still Nintendo. We do Nintendo things. Jav, how about we stop talking about E3 and just have a Persona forecast?
the Persona
Funny that you
forecast for
mentioned that.
today,
For real.
cloudy, with a chance of Persona.
Does that mean we're about
It
done
means
here?
we just bonded is what it means.
Oh, we've confused Tiddles.
They're
Wow.
talking about Persona stuff
I
that
guess
we're
you
not
could
going
say
to care
we
about.
Sped run that cast.
Ah, that's awful.
Looking at the clock, I would say no.
Well, we did our best.
We did our usual
best.
Very
We did our
slow
best to reach
job.
out to the truth.
We
Ramming 10 minutes of useful information into an hour and a half.
Oh.
Is the Truth one of the baddies in Metal Gear Solid 3?
No.
No,
you're
he was in San Andreas though.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
No, truth.
So yeah, to wrap this up, let me say that by the time you guys hear this, the Speed Gamers Final Fantasy Marathon should be just about underway. I believe it starts at 6 Central Time in the evening on June 24th, which should be our target date for actually releasing this version of the podcast. So come to the con homepage by then and check out what they're doing and maybe throw them a couple bucks.
Yeah.
They're doing good stuff, and we're going to help them out because they like us and we like them.
I like
and
bugs.
nobody we hate is involved, so
Absolutely.
go for it. They're good people.
Yeah.
Wait, are they?
All right. Yes, they seem to be.
Okay.
I reserve all judgment until later. But no, seriously, they've actually been great to work with, and I'm really looking forward to this. I think it'll be a lot of fun for everybody, and I like the fact that we'll be exposing them a little bit using Con as well.
Maybe.
So yeah.
I think all their speedrunners
Anyway.
probably know their games well enough not to need our guides, but
Oh, I have asked them to pimp our guides anyway.
I would love it if someone actually was using one of our guys to speed on something.
wait a second. You can steal a pay from this guy.
And Tittles, you'll be pleased to know if you didn't see my news today that they are kicking off the speedrun of Final Fantasy VIII. So you're going to want to stay up late that night to check that out.
Oh man, Fisherman's Horizon.
Somewhere DP is high-fiving himself.
On library internet.
And then a bookshelf
All right,
falls over and
boys.
kills him.
Let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Night.
Good night. That'll do it for today. E3 was a lot of fun this year, and I think we had a lot of fun talking about it. Hope you enjoyed it too. Once again, this is Caves of Narsh. You can find us at cavesofnarsh.com or any number of social media outlets. Just search for Caves of Narsh. We're really easy to find because nobody wants to use our name. We're going out today with the Gold Saucer theme from Final Fantasy VII. At the beginning, as always, you heard Neko Neko Mawai from Jav.